If my future was determined just by my performance on a standardized test, I would not be here. I guarantee you that. That is a quote that the former First Lady Michelle Obama said. In March of 2009, there was a research from the Alliance of Childhood, and that showed that time for play in most public kindergartens has dwindled to a vanishing point, replaced by lengthy lessons and standardized testing. When I walked into a kindergarten classroom, I saw sandboxes, I saw blocks, toys everywhere. I was so excited to start school. It looked like so much fun. It was nothing like what my older cousins and my uncles and everybody told me about it. It was hard work. It was not fun. It's not all about games, they would tell me. Well, it appeared that that was not the case in kindergarten for me. However, 30 years later, walking my daughter into the kindergarten classroom for the very first time, and I see worksheets piled high, chalkboards, computers, notebooks. There was no toys, none, no sandboxes. Um, it was all about education, and I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying that's bad. It's okay to push our children a little bit harder earlier. It just makes them smarter, right? However, the problem that we're facing is the fact that we are expecting so much out of our children that we're looking at them as failures if they don't meet these guidelines. And what is worse than having a scary first impression of school? You walk into a classroom and you don't see toys. You see all kinds of work that you don't have a clue what to do with it. I have severe test anxiety, and I've had it for so long that I don't even realize I have it. I'll study, I'll do everything that I'm supposed to do prior to my test, and then I go in, I take my test, I think I do really good, I look at the end result, and I'm like, what in the world did I just do? I look at the questions again, I look at the answers, I'm like, but I knew the answer to this. I don't know what happened. It's like I walk into a testing center, and everything that I learned is gone. I completely forget everything that I learned. The only way that I seem to succeed is if I just grill myself all the way till I get to that door, and it's basically based on memory that some of it kind of sticks. Otherwise, it's gone. A 3-year study completed in October of 2010 by the Giselle Institute of Human Development showed that increased emphasis on testing is making our children feel like failures as young as pre-K. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about standardized testing and how we can make this a little bit more pleasant of an experience for our children. We can start using portfolios like we used to. I mean, when I was in school, we based most of our educational progress on our homework that we did at home after school, the worksheets that we did during class, the book reports that we stood in front of the classroom and so nervously presented to everybody. We could play games. My children play on tablets all the time. Every single day, they're on those tablets. And what are they doing? They're playing games. They can play some really fun games, but guess what? Half the time, they're actually learning stuff. I try to get my children to do their schoolwork because I homeschool them, and they don't want to do it. Ever. But somehow, some of this stuff sticks. And they'll tell me that they're spelling a word, and they'll spell it, and they spell it perfectly, and they're 6 and 8 years old, and some of this stuff they're getting from these games that they think they're playing, but they're also learning from. So the question that I want you guys to ask yourselves is, when your children go into that classroom, when they're preparing for a test, are they actually learning very much? Or are they just learning just enough to get by so that they can pass that test? See, schools and teachers are held accountable for test scores. So say the majority of the class gets low grades, well, the teacher in that school is going to suffer the consequences for that. Which I'm not saying that a teacher should not be held accountable for what they learn or do not learn. However, you have to actually base it on what they learn, not, basing it on a test score, not knowing how these children test. I mean, we're starting early anxiety over a test. So how do we know that they're actually not comprehending the information, or maybe they just don't test very well? So, according to the USA Today in 2011, there was 44 Atlanta schools that were found to be cheating on standardized testing. They actually would hold weekend pizza parties where the teachers would go and they would change the test answers so that way they would not get low testing scores, so that they would not be penalized for the testing scores that that their students got. Now, you may be asking yourselves why a teacher would alter a grade for a student, and that's simple. We have become more concerned about the test scores and what it's going to do to the teachers and the schools themselves than we actually are concerned about our students' education. I mean, yes, of course we want the teachers to teach our children, but we need to make sure primarily that our children are receiving the education that they need and the education that they deserve. And a test score just is not sufficient enough to determine. I mean, what if your child learns differently? What if reading stuff on a piece of paper is not the way they learn? What if they're more of an artistic learner? Maybe they're visual, maybe they're a hands-on learner. And you're not going to really know that based on a test score. But if you stick them in front of a computer and you put them on a game that they enjoy, and you let them play this game that they enjoy, that's also teaching them, then you're going to see what they actually know. Because they're not stressed out about it, they're just learning and playing at the same time. If you keep their worksheets and grade their worksheets the way we used to do, and keep that in a portfolio so that we can see the progress that our children are making, and making that a higher portion of their grade, then we're going to see what they know and what they don't know. If we do more hands-on science experiments and use that as part of their grade, then you're going to see what they know in different areas. I'm not saying you have to stop testing them. I'm just saying that you need to make it less weighted. I'll tell you a story. I was actually working at a school. It was a former homeschool program that actually ended up creating some centers. And I worked there for a little bit, and they did testing. And my little girl, she's in second grade, she became friends with another little girl. And her mother, the mother of this little girl, she just knew that her daughter was doing well in school. And I don't know if the communication was off or what, but apparently her progress wasn't where they wanted it to be. Now, their way of fixing this problem, now remember that the progress that they're going by is based on these test scores that they did at the beginning of the year. So the way they decided that they were going to fix this situation or help this little girl was to pull her out of her second grade classroom and put her in a kindergarten first grade classroom. Now imagine the humiliation that this girl may feel because she's no longer with her second grade friends. She's with kindergarten and first grade children that she knows none of them. But most importantly, I mean, she knows how old these kids are. She knows that they're much, much younger, and she's going to be wondering why they put her in there. And that's when those labels start. That's when they start getting a self-image that may not be as positive as it could be, because we're basing what we feel their educational progress is on a test. And to me, that is not a thorough, proper way to do that. So, yes, you want to hold a teacher accountable, but you want to hold a teacher accountable for the education that the teacher has control over. Okay? I can sit and talk to somebody till I'm blue in the face. I can tell them how to do something till I'm blue in the face. But you know what I can't do is I cannot prevent the testing anxiety that you may or may not have. And when you walk into that room to take a test, everything's gone. I can't control that. But I can control teaching you the information, giving you the worksheets to help you build on that skill. I can help you with that. I can control that. I can watch and see exactly what you're struggling with, and I can help you with that. My child took a test, and some of the things that they said she didn't know, I knew she knew. But for some reason, the test came back that she didn't know it. So I don't see how that can be a thorough way, a good way to test our children. Every child is an individual. We can't compare our unique children to an average child. We can't do that. I mean, think about it. My child may have started walking at 6 months old. Your child may have started walking at 9 months old. So how can we possibly expect them to begin developing, begin to learn how to comprehend and learn and educate at the same rate as the children that developed earlier than they did? How can we expect a child that didn't start talking till they were a year to develop at the same level as somebody that started talking at 7 months? We're having too many average goals for our children to reach, but we're also expecting those unique children to be able to show what they've learned the same way as everybody else. I can write a paper very easily. It may not be perfect, but I know how to use my words. I know how to take my words and my thoughts and put it on a piece of paper. Can I take a test? No. I know people that you draw some pictures to help give them a visual of what you're trying to teach them, and they grasp it just like that. But can they write a paper? Maybe not. Can they test? Maybe. I don't know. But the point is that how do we feel that one standardized test is going to fit the uniqueness of every single child in the entire United States? How can we accurately say that this is where our child is when we're not going off of this specific unique child? We are not giving them their own unique test. Therefore, it just doesn't seem fair to grade them and judge their educational progress based on a standardized test. Now, if you took everything and you weighted it to where it was equal, say you did a test, still do a test every year, but your worksheets can ultimately help you pass. If you don't test well, these worksheets are going to help. If you don't do worksheets very well and you don't test very well, these games that we do 3 days a week are going to help you. If you don't do none of those right, well, then we have several hands-on activities that are going to help you too. And all of those are equally weighted when it comes to determining what your educational progress is. We don't want to label our children. We don't want to dictate that they're slow based on one test. We don't want to stress our children out at such a young age that we have them already experiencing depression and anxiety. We want to be able to watch these children, watch how they learn, watch how they comprehend, watch the kind of games they play, watch the kind of TV that they watch the kind of YouTube videos that they watch. Yeah, I know that sounds a little backwards. I mean, why are you letting your children watch TV and YouTube if they're trailing in school? Well, like I said before, I teach my children every single day. And every single day, they do their lessons. And then every single day, they play their games. And I'm going to tell you what, there's things that I never taught them. There's things that I hadn't even gotten to yet. They're not even supposed to be learning that stuff yet. But you know what? They already know it. Why do they know it? Because YouTube helped teach them that. Because they're a visual person. They like that visual stuff. They learn faster and better with the visual stuff. So, the last couple things that I want to go over is that there was a survey that was done from the Games and Learning Publishing Council, and it highlights some interesting facts regarding the usage of games in the classroom. And 55% of the teachers said that they saw they saw it motivated the low-performing students, the special education students. They saw that the English language learners even benefited from it. And interestingly enough, it also helped those that had behavioral and developmental issues. So that's the one thing that you got to keep in mind, is that these videos and these games, they help a variety of people. Okay? And this went a little longer than I anticipated, so I'm going to end it with this. The standardized testing is a one-size-fits-all method. Okay? You're going off of a huge population of very unique children. I do not feel, and I've said this before, but I do not feel that we cannot test everyone the same way when everyone learns differently. Children are too young to have to deal with the stress. Education is supposed to be as painless as possible. And as the years go on and the stress keeps building up and they start getting those labels because of the test scores that they've received, and they start seeing that their friends are going further and further up the educational ladder and they're still down here, that's when they start feeling defeated, depressed, dropping out of school, which is the last thing that you want your kids to do. Everybody wants their kids to be successful. Everybody wants their kids to do great things in life. But if we do not lower the anxiety that our children are feeling, if we do not make it to where this educational journey for our children is more targeted towards their needs, I mean, we're not supposed to push the way we want them to learn. We have to let them learn the way they learn. And that's the most important part. Yes, hold our teachers accountable, but give them more control over what they learn and what they don't learn. Give these teachers back the ability to teach their children. They shouldn't be going through a test and determining what they're going to be tested on and only go over those parts. They shouldn't have to have weekend parties to change grades. They should have faith that their teaching has taught these students what they need to do. I don't like labels. I don't like to see a child feel like a failure. And that's what these tests are doing to our children. So let's figure a better way to educate our children without making them feel like lesser of a person.